If Gligar got Sword Stance this gen, it would probably be a top tier Pokemon. Shame we don't live in that timeline. Gligar is a decent Pokemon in GSC While it has problems, its strengths are enough to make it a respectable Pokemon. Gligar isn't a Pokemon you'll find much on the tier's most basic playstyles, like Gyarados and Mr. Mime offenses. It is instead more common on the tier's wackier, but still great playstyles, like Lantern plus Piloswine and Ampharos teams. Its bizarre typing is its greatest strength, granting it immunities to ground and electric, among other useful resistances. Gligar is the best answer to Nidoqueen, taking nothing from Earthquake and Thunder, little from Fire Blast, and 2 KOing Nidoqueen back. If Nidoqueen uses Ice Beam, then no big deal, because Gligar is paired with Pokemon like Pinsir and Piloswine, who can take advantage of Ice Beam variants. Its unique set of resistances and immunities let it check some of the tier's most dangerous physical attackers. Gligar is also a decent offensive threat with Stab Earthquake, decent attack, and Screech. With spikes up, Screech Gligar can be fairly annoying to deal with. Gligar's mediocre matchup against the tier's water types and Piloswine make it tough to fit on teams though. Its stats can also let it down. Gligar only really fits onto teams that really need its specific skill set, but it's still a decent mon overall. Let's analyse it, shall we? As mentioned, Gligar's typing is its most useful asset. Ground and Electric are the 2 most common attacking types in this tier, and Gligar is immune to both of them. Its ground immunity also grants it an immunity to spikes, making it difficult to wear down. Gligar is also granted resistances to poison and bug, which can be helpful. Unlike other ground types, Gligar is neutral to grass, and unlike other flying types, Gligar is neutral to rock. As mentioned earlier, Gligar is the best Nidoqueen answer. Earthquake and Thunder do 0, and Fire Blast is a mere 5-hit KO. Gligar is frequently paired with Piloswine and Blastoise, so Ice Beam and Lovely Kiss variants aren't an issue. Being able to counter Nidoqueen is hugely useful for Pokemon who struggle against her, like Ampharos and Magneton. Gligar's ground immunity make it an adequate check to the tier's physical Sap Sweepers, including Scyther, Pinsir, Victreebel, and Sandslash. Gligar is also one of the few Pokemon who can survive a hit from a boosted Belly Drum Quagsire. Quagsire can't Rest Loop Gligar either because of Screech. Gligar's physical defense is quite good, though its HP is a bit mediocre. Gligar is good at pivoting into electric moves from the likes of Ampharos, Haunter, and Electrode, though do be careful since these Pokemon can mess Gligar up with other moves. Gligar is quite fast by GSCU standards, outspeeding the likes of Nidoqueen, Blastoise, and Gyarados, while speed tying Pinsir and Quillfish. Gligar can be an irritating Pokemon to KO for offensive teams. Its Spikes immunity make it tough to wear down, and it matches up well into common Pokemon in those teams. Stab Earthquake is excellent in GSCU due to how common Poison and Electric types are. Due to how commonly Pokemon like Haunter, Quillfish, and Electabuzz are paired together, Screech is a great choice on Gligar. Gligar can come in on something it threatens out, and use Screech to put more pressure on the switch in. Piloswine, for example, is 2 KO'd by Earthquake if it's hit by a Screech, so if chipped enough, Gligar can put it out of commission. The same applies to Granbull, Blastoise, and Slowking. They all get 2 KO'd by a -2 Screech. Screech is useful in a lot of scenarios. It makes Hypno easier to break through, it means Quagsire can't Rest Loop you, and it shuts down defense boosters, like Curse Granbull and Defense Curse Shuckle. Screech is Gligar's best way of making progress in this metagame, since it doesn't earn Sword Stance and its attack is merely average. After Earthquake, Wing Attack, and Screech, Gligar's last move slot is dedicated to messing up its checks, Piloswine, and Water types. Toxic ruins Gyarados, Scyther, and Pinsir, while forcing Piloswine, Slowking, Slowbro, and Blastoise to rest. Thief makes it easier to break Piloswine, Blastoise, and Slowbro long term, with Gligar or its teammates like Mr. Mime or Electabuzz, since their longevity is crippled without leftovers. If you Toxic Gyarados with Gligar, then it's on a timer now. When that timer runs out and Gyarados dies to poison, Piloswine becomes a huge threat. Without Toxic or Thief, then Gligar becomes free entry for Gyarados, which is obviously not desirable. Gligar used to run counter quite a lot, but the need for it has declined with Agility Pass banned. Gligar could tank an attack from a +6 attack Quagsire and counter it back, which was game changing. Counter is also helpful against boosted Scyther and Pinsir. Running counter means you are dropping when a Screech or Thief/Toxic though, so it has declined in usage. Dropping one of these is a tough sell. Gligar fits best on teams that use Ampharos or Magneton. These Pokemon give free turns to Nidoqueen and Quagsire, so a Pokemon that beats them both is a good fit. It also works on Lantern plus Piloswine teams, as sort of a less passive Jumpluff. Gligar is a decent recipient of Sword Stance from Scyther as well. While Gligar's typing gives it useful resistances and immunities, it also leaves it with weaknesses to water and ice. Even with Screech, Gligar isn't great into water types and Piloswine. They can tank hits from Gligar and retaliate back with huge damage. Gligar's water and ice weaknesses also make it risky as a choice as one sole ground type, since Lantern has Stab Surf and Electabuzz can use Ice Punch. Gligar's attack is the lowest of your used ground types, meaning it can be more passive than you think, even with Screech. Gligar's poor special defense also means Pokemon like Mr. Mime, Hypno, and Haunter deal more damage to it than you'd like. Gligar can't fit Rest on its set, so it's vulnerable to getting worn down and to status. Fitting Gligar onto teams is just awkward as a result. You often need to pair with Piloswine, which just restricts building since then you need to really counter water types. This results in Gligar being more specialised than Nidoqueen, Piloswine, and even Quagsire. Not a bad Pokemon, but not a great one either. Before finishing this off, let's look at this thing's history. Gligar was just kinda there for most of GSCU's history. It was an at best decent Pokemon you could use successfully, but it struggled with water types. Ice Beam used to be more common on Nidoqueen too, which wasn't helpful. Gligar was a relatively obscure Pokemon until around 2018, when GSCU began being played more. Fire Blast had become the premier Nidoqueen set, so Gligar was more valuable. It still wasn't used much though, since it was so bad into Slowbro. Gligar remained obscure until 2022, when players began using Screech sets and realised their potential. Agility Pass had been banned by this point, so the need for counter had declined a lot. Gligar then began seeing use on Lantern pilot teams, and the resurgence of Ampharos meant Gligar had a great partner. Gligar went from B tier to B plus tier. Listen, it's never going to be a top tier Pokemon, but it's still decent in all things considered.